Good morning, first period, and welcome to Carlos and Lily's News Hours. I'm your host, Carlos.
And I'm Lily, and we're here to talk about NATO. Why is it important? Does anyone care? Let's find out.
NATO, also known as the North Atlantic Treaty, was signed in 1949 by 12 countries: the United States, Canada, Belgium, Denmark, France, Iceland, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, Norway, Portugal, and the United Kingdom. The countries signed the treaty 4 years after World War II. The point of the treaty was to protect friendly countries from the Soviets because they were seen as a threat. During 1947 and 1949, many events happened that caused the nations of Western Europe to become concerned about their physical and political security. And even the United States had to be more involved because the Soviet expansion and communist influence. During this period, Greece was in a civil war over the influence of communism, and many Western countries were worried that the Soviets could spread through the Mediterranean region. In addition, Europe was in a bad economy and they were still recovering from the aftermath of World War II. Therefore, there were many food shortages, unemployment, and inflation was on the rampage. But as we see the years went on, and the fall of the Soviet Union, and as well as the objective of NATO, the new objective of NATO was to protect each other from terrorist organizations.
Since 1945, Germany had been divided into East and West. The West was occupied by the US, Britain, and France, while the Soviets controlled the East. In 1955, the three countries formally ended their military occupations in West Germany, and it soon became its own country. West Germany then became a member of NATO. While few countries were wary of Germany joining NATO, the US insisted that West Germany would be vital in stopping the Soviet expansion. Almost immediately after West Germany joined NATO, Soviet leader Stalin established the Warsaw Pact, which was a military alliance between the Soviets and their Eastern European satellites, including East Germany. Dividing East and West Germany into two different alliances truly destroyed the possibility of a reunited Germany shortly. Ultimately, the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989 led to the reunification of Germany in 1990, and eventually the end of the Cold War in 1991.
Switching topics to the Cold War, during this time period, we see that NATO forces were not involved in conflict. Instead, NATO considered bolstering their commitment to Western Germany. During this time period, NATO expanded geographically. Countries such as Greece, Turkey, Spain, and West Germany all joined the treaty during this time period. This increased security against communism expansion and also created unity with Western Europe. In 1950, NATO created the policy of mass retaliation. This was in response in case any Soviets used nuclear action.
And we'll be back after this short break. Stop! Do you want to know how to support NATO? This is how.
If you buy this pin right here, it will support the cause and be sensationally appreciated.
NATO works in different ways to protect many different people in different countries, and we need your help.
Buy this pin and show your support for the small price of $5.
$5? What a steal!
Buy yours today.
And we're back, ready to talk about more recent topics involving Sweden. When Sweden joined NATO back in 2024, becoming the newest country to join the treaty, Sweden had a lot to provide. The first big benefit is that Sweden had the biggest coastline of the treaty. This benefits NATO because now the organization can better defend the Arctic Circle by enhancing surveillance up in the high north. And in the Baltic Sea region, Sweden strengthens NATO's northern flank and providing early warning capabilities to potential threats such as Russia, air defense. Sweden plans to pay about 2.4% to NATO to better strengthen their defense.
We're here today to interview some people on their thoughts about NATO, so tune in what people say. So Isa, do you support NATO?
I do.
And do you think that the US should be aligned with NATO?
I think they should. I think it would protect our country.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Yes, of course.
So Miles, do you support NATO?
Yes.
And do you think America should be in an alliance with NATO?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
So Ricky, what is your opinion on US being allied with NATO, and do you think we should continue that alliance?
I'm all for it. We should all be against terrorism.
Perfect, thank you.
There are debates about whether it would be better for America to withdraw from NATO or if there needs to be more support. Because NATO was created to prevent the Soviet Union from rapidly expanding, the debate truly is NATO even important anymore? 2/3 of Americans support the US commitment to NATO, but what about the 1/3 who seem to believe that membership is either too costly or not useful for the US? The pros are that Article 5 of the Atlantic Treaty states that NATO has to help anyone in the alliance that is under attack, which happened during 9/11 in the US. As a result of the attack of Ukraine, NATO has strengthened its military and is aiding Ukraine. However, the pros are that there are debates whether NATO should continue expanding because of the fear of causing more Russian aggression. The last main issue is the refusal or inability to share nuclear weapons within NATO, specifically France and Britain. Throughout the war between Ukraine and Russia, many people have been wondering, why has NATO not accepted Ukraine into their alliance? Although countries in NATO are supplying and supporting Ukraine, Ukraine can't join NATO because Article 5 of the Atlantic Treaty states that while the war is still ongoing, Ukraine is not allowed to join NATO. However, there has been discussion of the war ending with the negotiation in a soon-to-be alliance between NATO and Ukraine. U.S. President Trump has spoken of trying to start a negotiation between Ukraine and Russia in hopes of ending the war. The negotiation is facing two challenges: protecting Ukrainian sovereignty and preventing Russia from attacking Ukraine in the future. Although the possible negotiation would be extremely beneficial to both sides of the war, it is not likely for Russia to stop pushing Ukrainian forces back.
Now talk about news that is recent. President Trump has stated in the Oval Office some of the concerns of NATO and some of the countries that are not paying enough. A reporter asked Trump about the situation. This was his response: "You're not going to pay? We're not going to defend you." Then the president followed up by saying, "I brought that up and they said, if you're not going to pay your bills, we're not going to participate. We're not going to protect you." Trump followed up by saying, "But the United States was in trouble and we called them and we said, friends, we got a problem. Are they going to protect us? They're supposed to, but I'm not sure." This is in response to some of how the countries are not paying and if they're not going to protect us because their military isn't strong enough. But after all that, President Trump does follow up by saying, and because of all that, hundreds of billions of dollars came into NATO. An example of a military that was strong that fell off is Canada. Historically, they had a good military until they stopped investing because Canada feels like that if they were to get invaded, the U.S. would help them. Due to the fact that the U.S. has the best military and Canada's in NATO. Trump states how the U.S. needs Greenland for national security. Trump sees how countries like Russia and China could be a threat to the Arctic security, and he wants to protect it and not let those countries go down there. Greenland is a territory of Denmark, and Trump says that Denmark is underinvesting in the territory, and Trump states how he doesn't want NATO to be involved, but Trump wants to buy Greenland from Denmark, and Denmark has agreed to have negotiations of having more military bases, but not taking over the territory.